Retirement can actually be an exciting place if you start planning for it really, really early, right? So usually when you probably aren't thinking about it, it's probably when you should start thinking about it, and there's a reason for that, right? Because you could be a couple of $1 million better off. So I'm going to explain an easy way, an easy glide path to get to retirement with a bit more equity, or surprisingly a lot of equity. Now, some assumptions here. So how do you get to retirement with a couple of $1 million plus, right? This is using long-term capital gain on property investment of 6.1%, or property in general for New Zealand. That's what we've seen over the last few decades. That's kind of the average across all towns, all different types of properties. I think that this couple here, this example I'm going to show you, it's as if they started very, very early, well, not that early, in the early 40s, right? And this could be achieved, surprisingly, with 2 investment properties. Yes, there's some pain along the way. I'm going to get into the detail of the pain. So let's get stuck into how this roadmap would look to be able to get $2.4 million equity in retirement and counting. So couple of things here, which is really, really important to know about. So here I'm assuming that this couple here buys for 800 grand. They buy an initial property straight off the bat. That would be basically 100% geared. I'm assuming that they have a home with lots of equity in it, and they're using that to buy this home 100% geared. Rent of $680 a week, so about a 4.4% gross yield. We got some rates, we got some insurance, we got some maintenance, annual costs there, and some property managers' fees. And all of that means that they are negative at not a huge amount, but it gets more painful when the interest-only period runs out after 5 years. So I'm assuming a 5-year interest-only period. 5 years later, I'm hoping for this couple that 5 years later that their investment property they bought in Auckland and their existing home goes up in value enough to enable the purchase of the second investment property for a lesser amount, because we need a bit of equity to get that across the ground. However, let's say they buy out of Auckland and they buy something with a higher gross yield. Rates, insurance, maintenance is there as well, and along with the property manager's fees. So how does it look all together? Now, remember, we're using the long-term capital gain of 6.1%. You could say that when you're going out of Auckland, the capital gain might be slower. In Auckland, it might be higher than that. So we're just kind of averaging the two out. But the pain would be here. Across both properties, there'd be a cash input required, right? Now, we can, at the 10th year, when both interest-only periods run out, that's where it gets quite painful. However, there's some things we can do here to soften the blow, right? So initially, if I had a couple going into this, we would want to look at their existing home loan. Obviously make them aware that if we stretch that home loan term, the cash flow gets way better. Obviously there's more interest costs on their own home, right, if they stretch the term. But it does enable them to divert some money into this little beautiful pot here of capital gain. This is not including the home, obviously. So this is just purely the 2 investment properties alone and the kind of capital gain it could achieve over the next couple of decades for this couple on heading towards retirement. But you can see that it does open up a lot of options. This line seems very, very stable and predictable. However, with property investing, property holding, we know this can be a lot more volatile. You could have periods, you could have lulls that last for years, as we've seen. You could have periods of very, very strong growth in property. But the long-term average would be expected to be about 6% if you looked at history. So this is, and again, look, nothing is for certain. It's good for you to talk to your own financial advisor. Someone like ourselves, obviously you might already be a client. We've got the tools now to kind of do a deep dive and give you a feel for the cash flow situation and possible fruits in the long term if you do certain actions. So feel free to reach out if you are interested in doing a deep dive for yourself. Hamish from monline.co.nz.